Yikes, is this gonna be a fun episode, because we're gonna find out how much Pro Charger boost we can ramrod through a cast piston 350 Chevy. Okay, first of all, let me explain the title of this video. How much boost can a stock engine take? Same thing last time when we ran a 305 Chevy and blew it up on nitrous. People said, that is not a stock engine, the heads and cam have been done. Here's the deal. What I really mean is how much boost, how much nitrous can a stock short block take? A short block is too confusing to put in a YouTube title. What it means is everything inside the cylinder block of the engine. Cast pistons, junk connecting rods, stock rod bolts, a cast crankshaft, bearings that are nothing special. That's all the stuff that is going to fail under boost. Cylinder heads are not the problem. So what we're doing here is we have literally a stock rebuilder short block, the type of thing that you could buy at O'Reilly Auto Parts or Pep Boys or whatever. It's a 350 Chevy, call it a 5.7 liter, and we're gonna cram a whole bunch of boost through it. The only thing that we've done to ensure life on this short block is that Dulcich took it all apart and opened up the ring end gap. The thing is, when you're under nitrous or boost making more heat, the piston ring will expand, and if the gap at the end of it touches, it'll lift up, break the piston, and it's all over. You can go back to when we blew up the 305 on nitrous and see exactly that. In this case, he took it from like a stock 22 thousandths or something like that and ran 30 thousandths gap on the top ring, 34 thousandths gap on the second ring. That should prevent them from butting. We also ran an MLS head gasket on this because under boost you can get head gasket failures, and our hope is that the extra springiness of that MLS gasket, which is multi-layer steel, will prevent that from happening. The top end has been modified. We've got some Trick Flow 195cc heads on it. I put a single plane intake manifold on it. It's a Holley Strip Dominator. Now, if you watch the last 2 episodes with this engine, you can see that in naturally aspirated trim, we've run it with a dual plane, which is really more appropriate for what this is. But when we're cramming boost through it, the single plane is gonna offer better cylinder to cylinder distribution than a dual plane would, and so it's just giving us that much margin of safety. Up top, we've got the 750 CFM Holley XP carburetor. That's what we're gonna run naturally aspirated. Other than that, the short block bone stock with the exception of a Comp Cams 280H, which is a Magnum flat tappet grind, nothing special at all. So what we're gonna do is throw this thing on the dyno and find out what it makes naturally aspirated, and then start cramming boost through it, and maybe parts will fall out. Every once in a while, the guys at AMSOIL tell us that we are completely off our nut, and cramming a bunch of boost through an engine where we have no idea what the bearings are and no idea the clearances is one of those times, which is why this time they went with all the cowbell. Dominator racing oil in a straight 60 weight. They want to make sure that when we have our failure, it is not oil related, and so they're looking for as much cushioning between that connecting rod bearing and the crankshaft as we can possibly get. And I'm going all the way this time, once again, with the funnel, because I love my Mr. Gasket cast aluminum fin valve cover. I don't want to get oil all over it. All right, our victim's on the dyno. We've already tuned the thing up, and unfortunately, it's kind of weak sauce, but we knew it was gonna be because that big single plane intake manifold is really a mismatch for the low compression and very small camshaft that's in this thing. Let's fire it up and show them how disappointing it is. Okay.
Yeah, about the same up top.
A perfect example of why a single plane is not the best choice most of the time on the street.
So our final answer is an oddly shaped curve that's not very good, but we did make 390 pound-feet of torque all the way up there at, what was it?
5,000?
5,000 RPM, and then it made peak power at 5,500. So basically what that tells you is that it's killing a bunch of torque down here where it should have peak torque at, let's say, 4,500 RPM.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the characteristic of the single plane.
But it is the right intake for boost, and I think we should go there right now because I never want to see this again.
Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore.
So, pro charge it! Well, that was underwhelming, but now we're gonna go big with a boost. This is a ProCharger centrifugal supercharger. Now, I've never run the ProCharger brand before, but I am impressed so far. The quality on this thing is nice. These are made in USA. They've got a billet impeller, they have a billet gear drive setup, and the company makes blowers all the way from, a tiny 850 horsepower capable unit all the way to 3,500 horsepower, which is cool. The particular model that they asked us to run today is an F1 A94. It's got a 9-inch volute, it's nice and compact. It can flow 1,625 CFM. It can make 1,200 horsepower. It's a self-contained unit, meaning that it does not need oil plumbed to it from the engine. That's a big deal to me. I hate having to run a pressure line and the return into your oil pan, poking a hole in it and all that stuff. The other thing that is good about having self-contained oiling is that it stays cooler, but the part I like is that when we scatter this engine, we're not gonna be sending oil full of shrapnel from the engine through the supercharger and killing it at the same time. One thing about this unit is that it has a 5.4-to-1 step-up ratio. What that means is for every 1 turn of this pulley that's driven by the belt, we are turning the impeller 5.4 times. See, this unit is capable of turning 74,000 RPM. Yeah, that's a big deal. We're probably not gonna be spinning it that fast in this particular test. Now, we are gonna run this with a blow-through carburetor. You need a special carburetor to do that. EFI is just a smarter way to go, though you can pull this off, and if you're gonna try, I recommend one of these carburetors modified by a shop called CSU. This is an 850 Holley. They've set it up with their magic just for blow-through applications. Westech has had a lot of luck with this unit right here, and so that's what we're gonna run today. And when we do, we're gonna start small and go big. Here's how. The larger the pulley that you put on the supercharger, the slower you turn the supercharger, and so the less boost you make. So we're gonna start mild. We're gonna find out how many smaller pulleys we can put on before we send this 350 to Kingdom Come. Last time we ran this engine, it had a 671 Wyand on it, which is a Roots type blower. Now we're going to the centrifugal. The Roots tends to make more low-end boost, low-end torque, whereas the centrifugal tends to gain more boost with RPM, and it'll make much more high-end horsepower.
So anyway, what are we gonna do here? We're just going to run it till
Parts fall out. Yeah. Either we need to blow it up, or we need to pick a number at which it's been so heroic that it needs to live instead.
I can pick that number.
What is it?
750 horsepower.
That's exactly what was on my mind.
No way.
If it makes 750 and lives,
it gets the letter from the governor at that point.
Yeah, I don't think that I can make connecting rods hang out if it
this thing
survives
makes
that.
750, it's going in a museum.
ProCharger saw our earlier episode that we did with the, I guess it was the late model Hemi, where I was whining and complaining about all the serpentine belt kits, which is this. It's a ribbed belt instead of being cogged, and they always slip. And ProCharger is like, nope, we're gonna prove to you that our kit does not slip. So we're gonna find that out later today. I do like their tensioner arrangement and actual aluminum pulley. I think we're finally ready to fire this thing up. I hope it survives more than this pulley arrangement. I want this to be much smaller. How far does it go?
It's gonna break at 670.
670.
It's going all the way, and it's gonna survive. 750, and we'll cap it right there.
Wow, see, I was gonna say 650.
I wanted to cap it at 650.
Yeah.
Just to say, it made it to 650. Come on, let it live.
I hate wrecking stuff for absolutely no reason, but the audience loves it.
It'll make it.
Well, it's really not for no reason. We're finding out where cast pistons fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the science, right? I also changed from Rocket Brand 114 to Rocket Brand 118. I'm giving it all the octane we can, specifically designed for blower motors and lots of boost. So we're just trying to take everything and make it as safe as we possibly can. Because we really, at this point, don't know how much boost it's going to make. It'll probably make 6 pounds, and then we have to go change pulleys.
Right.
But we're going to find out where it goes.
I think it's gonna be well over 10 pounds with this setup. Like 11, 12.
Might be. That's what we're here for. Find out. If we're going to break it, I hope something hits the door.
Okay. Well, make it happen.
So there you have a smooth Hyundai at the peak over a Roots.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
If this were a tune-up at the drag races, we would probably lean it out a bit. But I was actually rolling in at the really low boost numbers because it's centrifugal. It was like 12.4. It's like, okay, this is cool. Then I'm just watching the carburetor work flawlessly. And it goes down into the 11s at about 10 pounds. And by the time we were at 14 pounds, it was in the 10s, which is granted a bit fat, but I'm better with that.
Call up the graph. Let's see where the peaks are.
Wow.
Look how far it pushed the peak torque.
It's a rising boost curve with the centrifugal, so it just keeps pushing peak torque up.
Yeah.
It's
Crazy.
very cool.
This is crazy.
Dulcich was right on the boost.
What? 14?
He said it's going to make up there. He said I think it's going to make 14.
14?
Yeah,
It made
and it made 14. You are smart sometimes.
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 Come on.
No, it was a backhanded compliment.
We just made 561 pound-feet of torque at 5,400 RPM. That torque peak being pushed like 1,000 RPM higher than naturally aspirated just because of airflow. 634.7 horsepower at what was it, 6,300 RPM?
Yeah, we were right up there. Now it is flat, so but I'll run it another 100.
Wow, I gotta see the overlay. Show me naturally aspirated versus this. Wow! Yeah, I think I'd choose that. Look at that, cast piston, but 118 octane rocket brand, 30 degrees of timing.
Well, and that may not be what you need, but it's what we did to be really safe and see how far we could take it.
Right.
We could back the octane off. We could probably add another couple degrees of timing.
No, I want to make it live as long as it can.
Exactly.
There you go, 14 pounds, stage 1, 561 pound-feet of torque, 634 horsepower. Ready to go with a smaller pulley?
680, 750, who knows?
All right, so with this blower pulley, we're spinning about 55,000 at peak RPM with this motor. And we're gonna put a smaller pulley on here. That's gonna make the blower spin even faster. We should have about 65,000 RPM at peak RPM with the motor.
650.6 horsepower at 6,200 RPM, and it is rolling over at that point. And it looks like our torque peak is 575 at 5,800. It's weird, the torque peak and the horsepower peak, the point of RPM keep getting closer and closer because it's just cramming air through the engine, which just extends that torque peak, which is what makes more horsepower. Let's go step it up.
Yep.
Should we let Dulcich pick the pulley or?
Sure.
Oh man.
Sure, live dangerously. Well, that was 14.7 pounds and 651 horsepower. So my prediction of parts on the floor at 650 was wrong. We thought we were gonna make big steps. We changed our mind. We're gonna keep going small because we really wanna see how far we can go before it explodes. If we went straight to like 30 pounds of boost right now, we wouldn't know if it could tolerate maybe 18. So this is a 4.25 inch pulley. Now we're gonna go to the 4.
That was a lot.
Look at that! Yeah, you can see the drop off, but 706 horsepower and 616 pound-feet of torque, basically within 300 RPM of each other. That is nutso for a cast piston
crazy.
small block.
And it did not seem like it was really in any distress.
It hasn't smoked, it hasn't blown out the valve covers. Maybe there's something to be said for a 5/64 ring with 300 pounds of tension. So now we're gonna go to the 3.7 inch pulley.
Here we go.
Get out of here! What we just saw there, our final with the 3.7 inch pulley and 18 pounds of boost with a little bit of belt slip is 653 pound-feet of torque at 5,800 RPM and 733 horsepower at 6,000 RPM.
I have complete confidence in this motor now. It can
It's
go
dumb,
800.
isn't it? With that Rocket 118,
and reasonable timing and good gas and all of those things that a lot of guys don't do.
While you guys are celebrating, we have one more pulley that we can blow it up with.
I know, and we got to make that belt like a piano string.
Small pulley, piano string, 780.
And then 2 more degrees of timing.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You just want to kill it, don't you?
Let's put the pulley
I
on.
thought we were going to give it a reprieve after 750.
Yeah, that was this morning.
Yeah, great.
Mic drop.
The belt still slipped, but I saw 25 PSI.
Did you? 765 horsepower. Wow. Didn't make 700 pound-feet though, made 693. That is the comparison of naturally aspirated power to our boosted power. That's insanity.
That's 300 pound-feet increase.
And look, almost doubled the horsepower of the thing.
A winner.
This morning when I was driving in here, I was debating with myself if I needed to bring in a shovel, a rake, or a mop.
Yeah, and I was expecting a black cloak too, like the
This thing was
cruel
just gonna be gone.
executioner you were.
I know, but now I love this thing. I cannot believe it survived. There's so much I'm impressed about this whole operation.
Well, I mean, the thing was a superhero. I mean, that stock little 350 Chevy bottom end.
It didn't blow out a breather cap. It didn't blow out the dipstick tube.
Yeah, it was just
I
awesome.
don't get it.
No, that's
at
great
all.
horsepower.
I'm super impressed with the Pro Charger. They've got their act together on that program.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with the CSU carburetor.
Agreed.
That was the best blow-through carburetor tune-up, I mean, out of the box I've ever run.
Yeah, by
and
far.
The fact that this cast piston rebuilder short block survived is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, but bear in mind, that was on the dyno where we had a handle on every parameter, or at least Brule did.
I know, that's the one caveat I would give to this for sure. I would not do this in a car. I wouldn't go down the drag strip with this a whole bunch because eventually you're gonna break something and drive over the crank. It's a controlled situation in the dyno cell. It's more brutal in the car, especially with ambient temperatures and water temp.
But you're only talking about that much more durability parts. Better rods, better pistons, maybe upgraded rings.
A Dart SHP block, and you're good to go. You could run this thing forever. So I think what people really learned here is what's possible with a super simple combo. I can't imagine how much better it would be with like a solid roller camshaft and a real short block. And you learned how to tune this thing to make it survive, showing that you can do this in the real world. And this is expensive.
Yeah.
But in the world of what would become 800 horsepower with a proper motor, it's not that expensive.
No, it's probably the cheapest way I can think of doing it, really.
I know. In fact, I'm planning on doing exactly this with that supercharger to put in our land speed car for El Mirage.
All right, that'll be cool.
I know. I want to do like a 12-degree head thing. It's going to be crazy. And you will see that on a future episode of Engine Masters at some point. So look for it on Engine Masters, which is presented by AMSOIL with support, as always, from Mr. Gasket, like these swanky valve covers, and also Earl's Vapor Guard hose. You know what the real question is?
What?
What's the worst hair situation? Dulcich now, or you with the ponytail, or me with the mullet?